The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive station where representatives from across the galaxy gathered to discuss matters of importance. Today, the room buzzed with unusual energy. Scientists had detected something remarkable, and now everyone wanted to understand what it meant. Commander Ji-Min Park stood near the back of the chamber, watching as the Galactic Council members took their seats. She represented Earth at these meetings, though humanity was still considered young by galactic standards. Most species here had been traveling the stars for millions of years. Humans had only joined them 50 years ago. The head scientist, a tall being with silver skin and 4 arms, activated the central display. A sound filled the chamber. It was old, crackling with interference, but the meaning was clear. A voice spoke in a language the translation system struggled to decode, but the emotion came through perfectly. Fear. Desperation. Hope. This signal has been traveling through space for 80,000 years, the scientist explained. It originated from a star system in the outer rim. The civilization that sent it is called the Vorathi, though we have no records of them. They are clearly extinct now. Ji-Min leaned forward, listening carefully. The voice in the recording continued to speak. The translation systems finally caught up, displaying words on the screen. Is anyone there? We are dying. Our ship is failing. Please, if anyone can hear this, please help us. We have children. We have families. Please do not let us vanish into the dark. The message repeated several times, then ended. The chamber fell silent for a moment. One of the council members, a being that looked like a floating crystal, spoke first. Fascinating, from a historical perspective. We should send archaeologists to investigate the origin point. This could teach us much about extinct civilizations. Another council member nodded. Indeed. Though sad, of course. They clearly died thousands of years ago. Perhaps we can learn what went wrong. Ji-Min felt something twist in her chest. She raised her hand to speak. The council head noticed and gestured for her to continue. With respect, Ji-Min said carefully. Earth would like to propose an actual rescue mission, not just an archaeological study. Ji-Min. Several council members turned to look at her. Some seemed confused. One let out what might have been a laugh. Commander Park, the crystal being said gently. Perhaps you misunderstand. This signal is 80,000 years old. The civilization that sent it died before your species even learned to farm. There is nothing to rescue. We should still go, Ji-Min insisted. Someone called for help. We should answer. The council member with 6 eyes spoke up. But why? It would cost resources, time, and effort to travel there. And for what? To find ancient ruins and dead ships? We can send robots for that. Ji-Min felt her jaw tighten. She had expected this reaction, but it still frustrated her. Because they asked for help. Because they were afraid and alone. And they hoped someone would care. Even if they are gone, we should go. We should see. We owe them that much. Owe them? Another council member asked. Commander, your sentiment is understandable, but not practical. They have been dead for longer than most species can imagine. Going there changes nothing. It changes that someone finally answered, Ji-Min said quietly. The council head studied her for a long moment. Humanity is still learning our ways. You see emotions where we see facts. The Vorathi are gone. This is simply how time works. Ji-Min took a breath. On Earth, we have a saying. When someone calls for help, you answer. Even if you are late. Even if you cannot save them. You answer because it is the right thing to do. You answer because someday, you might be the one calling. The chamber grew quiet again. Some council members exchanged glances. Others seemed to be thinking. Earth requests permission to send a ship to investigate, Ji-Min continued. We will not ask for galactic resources. We will go ourselves. We just want to know what happened. We want to honor their call. The council had considered this. You truly wish to waste your resources on this? It is not a waste, Jimin replied. They reached out across the stars, hoping someone good existed in the universe. Someone who would care. We want to show them that someone does, even if we are 80,000 years too late. After a long pause, the council head nodded. Very well. Earth may send its expedition. We will note your decision in the records, though I suspect you will find only disappointment. Jimin bowed slightly. Thank you. As the council moved on to other matters, Jimin stepped out of the chamber. She immediately contacted Earth. The response came quickly. They would send a ship. They would answer the call. 3 weeks later, Jimin stood on the bridge of the Persistence, a human exploration vessel designed for long-distance travel. The crew around her prepared for departure. Dr. Seo Yun Chang checked the scientific equipment. Lieutenant Han Sol Kim reviewed their route to the distant star system. Course plotted, Commander, Han Sol reported. It will take us 4 months to reach the coordinates. Good, Jimin said. Let us go answer a call that should have been answered long ago. The Persistence pulled away from the station and turned toward the darkness. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued its business, already forgetting about the human ship chasing ghosts. But Jimin remembered the voice in the signal. The fear and hope mixed together, the plea that had traveled across space for 80,000 years, waiting for someone to care enough to respond. We are coming, she whispered to the stars. We heard you. We are coming. The ship jumped into faster-than-light travel, racing toward a system where a civilization had died hoping someone would answer their call. Humanity was finally bringing that answer, even if they were impossibly late. Because some things mattered more than time or practicality. Some things mattered because they defined who you chose to be. 4 months in space changed people. The crew of the Persistence had grown used to the silence, the routine, and the vast emptiness outside their windows. But as they approached the target system, something shifted. Everyone felt it. They were close now. Dropping out of faster than light in 30 seconds, Han Sol announced from the navigation station. His hands moved across the controls with practiced ease. Jimin stood at the center of the bridge, watching the main screen. Around her, the crew prepared for normal space. 4 months of travel were about to end. Whatever they found here would be the answer to a question that had haunted her since hearing that signal. The ship shuddered slightly as it dropped back into normal space. Stars appeared on the screen, sharp and clear. And there, in the distance, a red sun burned, dimly. Scanning the system now, Seo Yun said from her station. Her eyes stayed focused on the data streaming across her screen. 3 planets. 2 gas giants in the outer system. 1 rocky planet closer in. Wait. I am getting something else. What is it? Jimin asked. A ship, Seo Yun replied, her voice barely above a whisper. A massive ship. Dead in space between the 2nd and 3rd planets. The main screen shifted to show the target. Jimin felt her breath catch. The vessel was enormous, easily 5 times the size of the Persistence. Its hull was dark, pitted with micrometeor impacts from thousands of years drifting, but it was still intact. A generation ship, Han Sol said quietly. They were trying to escape something. Take us closer, Jimin ordered. Carefully. The Persistence moved forward, closing the distance slowly. As they approached, more details became visible. The ship had a cylindrical design, meant to spin for artificial gravity. Parts of it were damaged, but most of the structure remained solid. I am picking up no power signatures, Seo Yun reported. The ship is completely dead. No heat, no energy, nothing. Can we dock with it? Jimin asked. There appears to be a docking port on the forward section, Han Sol said. It looks compatible with our systems. Old design, but functional. Do it, Jimin decided. The next hour involved careful maneuvering and several tense moments. But eventually, the Persistence connected to the ancient vessel. The docking clamps locked with a solid thunk that echoed through both ships. Jimin gathered an exploration team. Besides herself, Seo-yun and Han Sol volunteered, along with 3 security officers. They suited up in protective gear. Not knowing what atmosphere, if any, remained inside the dead ship, the airlock opened with a hiss. Jimin stepped through first, her helmet light cutting through absolute darkness. The corridor beyond was wide and tall, designed for beings larger than humans. Frost covered every surface. Temperature is near absolute zero, Seo-yun noted, checking her instruments. No atmosphere. This ship has been dead for a very long time. They moved forward slowly, their lights revealing glimpses of a lost civilization. Writing covered the walls in a flowing script that looked almost artistic. Images showed beings with 4 arms and heads that had 3 eyes arranged in a triangle. The Vorathi. This way, Seo-yun said, following a map she had pulled from the ship's external computer core. There should be a central control room ahead. The control room, when they reached it, told a sad story. Stations were abandoned mid-task. Data screens, long, dark, sat waiting for operators who would never return. In one corner, Jimin found something that made her stop. A small toy, carved from some kind of wood. It looked like an animal, though not one she recognized. They had families here, she said softly. Children. Commander, Seo-yun called out. Jimin crossed to where Seo-yun stood before a main console. The scientist had managed to connect a portable power source and was pulling data from the ancient computer. Ship logs, Seo-yun explained. Automated recordings. Let me see if I can translate them. No. The computer worked for several minutes, processing the alien language. Then words began appearing on the screen, translated into human language. The logs told a story of desperation. The Vorathi homeworld had been dying, its sun expanding early. They had built this ship, packed it with as many people as they could save, and fled into space. They hoped to find a new world, a new home. But something had gone wrong. The ship's main power core had failed 20 years into their journey. Life support began failing. They sent their distress signal, broadcasting it in all directions, hoping someone would hear, hoping someone would care. Keep reading, Jimin said, her voice tight. The logs continued. Days turned to weeks, weeks to months. The Vorathi tried everything to repair their ship, but they lacked the resources. One by one, systems failed. The automated logs recorded it all with cold precision. Then Seo-yun found something else. Commander, there is a section here about emergency protocols. When they knew they could not save everyone, they made a choice. What choice? Han Sol asked. Seo-yun read further, her eyes widening. They put people into stasis. Deep cryogenic sleep. They hoped it would preserve them until rescue came. They prioritized children and young adults. The older generation stayed awake to maintain the systems as long as possible. The logs showed that final, desperate act. Families saying goodbye. Parents putting children to sleep with promises that someone would come. That they would wake up safe. That everything would be fine. Where are the stasis pods? Jimin asked urgently. Seo-yun checked the ship's layout. Lower decks. Section 7. Commander, those systems would have failed long ago without power. We still need to check, Jimin insisted. They made their way deeper into the ship, following the map. The stasis chamber was massive, row after row of cylindrical pods stretching into the darkness. Jimin counted hundreds of them. Power check, she ordered. Seo-yun moved to a control panel and connected her equipment. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, her voice came through the radio, shaking slightly. Commander, I am reading power signatures. Very faint, but they are there. Some of these pods are still functioning. Jimin felt the world shift beneath her feet. What? Emergency backup systems, Seo-yun said, reading faster now. The Vorathi designed the pods to draw power from radioactive decay. Very slow, very stable. They last thousands of years. Commander, I am reading life signs. Faint, but present. There are people alive in these pods. Han Sol checked his scanner. Confirmed. I count 847 active pods. The rest failed over time, but these ones held. Jimin walked forward slowly, approaching the nearest pod. She wiped frost from a small window and looked inside. A face looked back at her, frozen in sleep. A young face with 3 eyes and 4 arms, preserved perfectly. They waited, she whispered. For 80,000 years. They waited for someone to answer their call. Wei. The redded. End. What do we do? Han Sol asked. Jimin straightened up. We wake them up. We finally give them the answer they have been waiting for. We tell them that someone heard them. That someone came. Around her, the crew stood in the darkness among hundreds of sleeping refugees from a civilization long extinct. They had come looking for the past, and found the present instead. A call for help, 80,000 years old, had finally been answered, and now the real work would begin. Jimin stood in the emergency meeting room aboard the Persistence. On the screen before her, faces from Earth looked back with expressions of shock and disbelief. She had just finished explaining what they had found. Let me make sure I understand correctly, the Earth Council representative said slowly. You found survivors. Actual living beings, in stasis, after 80,000 years. Yes, Jimin confirmed. 847 individuals, mostly young people and children. The older generation sacrificed themselves to give the young a chance. This is remarkable, another council member said. But also very complicated. Do we even know how to wake them safely? Seo Yun stepped forward. I have been studying their medical database. The Vorathi were incredibly advanced in biological sciences. They left detailed instructions for revival, designed for whoever found them. But can we follow those instructions? Someone asked. It is different, Seo Yun admitted, but not impossibly so. They breathe oxygen. Their blood chemistry is similar to ours in basic function, and their cellular structure follows recognizable patterns. I believe we can do this. But we need to be very careful. Jimin looked at the council members. We are asking for permission to begin revival procedures. We also need medical support sent from Earth. This is beyond what our small crew can handle alone. What does the Galactic Council say? Someone asked. We contacted them yesterday, Jimin replied, her voice tight. They advised us to leave the Vorathi in stasis and return home. They said it was too dangerous, too expensive, and too complicated to attempt revival. Silence filled the communication channel for a moment. They want us to leave them? One council member said, shocked. After 80,000 years, they finally get found, and the galaxy says to leave them sleeping? The council's position is that they are effectively already dead, Jimin explained. They argue that waking them would be cruel, bringing them into a universe where their civilization is extinct and they have no place. That is not our decision to make, the Earth Council head said firmly. If they can be saved, we save them. Send us everything you have. We will dispatch medical teams immediately. In the meantime, do what you can. Jimin felt relief flood through her. Thank you. We will begin preliminary work immediately. The communication ended. Jimin turned to her crew. You heard them. Let us get to work. Over the next 3 days, the crew of the Persistence worked to restore power to sections of the Vorathi ship. They connected their own generators to the medical bay, bringing light and warmth to chambers that had been dark for millennia. Seo Yun spent every waking hour studying the Vorathi medical records. She learned their physiology, their chemistry, their biological rhythms. The instructions they had left were detailed and clear, written by people who desperately wanted to make revival possible for whoever found them. They thought of everything, Seo Yun told Jimin, during one late-night work session. Different scenarios, different types of rescuers, different technology levels. They really believed someone good would come. Someone did, Jimin said quietly. We were just very, very late. On the fourth day, Seo-yoon announced she was ready to attempt the first revival. They chose carefully, selecting a pod that contained someone identified in the records as a medical professional. If they succeeded, that person could help with the others. The crew gathered in the medical bay. The chosen pod rested on a specialized table, connected to monitors that tracked life signs. Seo-yoon double-checked every connection, every setting, every detail. Beginning revival sequence, she announced. The pod began to hum softly. Lights activated along its length. Inside, the frozen form started to change as carefully controlled warmth spread through the system. Minutes passed. Then, an hour. The crew watched in tense silence. Heart rate increasing, Seo-yoon reported. Brain activity rising. Cellular metabolism responding. This is working. Another 30 minutes passed. Then the pod's lid unsealed with a soft hiss. Vapor poured out. Inside, 3 eyes slowly opened. The Vorathi looked around with confusion. Their 4 arms moved weakly. Their mouth opened, and sounds came out. Strange sounds, in a language dead for 80,000 years. The translator is working, Seo-yoon said. A moment later, words appeared on a screen. Where am I? What happened? Did someone come? Jimin stepped forward slowly, making herself visible. Yes, she said, speaking clearly, so the translator could process her words. Someone came. You are safe now. The Vorathi's 3 eyes focused on her. Confusion turned to shock, then to something that might have been joy or relief or disbelief all mixed together. You answered. Someone, actually, answered. We did, Jimin confirmed. We heard your call. We came. Tears formed in the Vorathi's eyes. All 3 of them. How long? Jimin hesitated, then decided honesty was necessary. 80,000 years. I am sorry we took so long. The Vorathi lay still for a moment, processing this. 80,000 years. They repeated slowly. Then, everything is gone. Our world. Our people. Everything. Not everything, Jimin said gently. There are 846 others in stasis with you. Children. Young people. The hope your generation protected. The Vorathi's breathing quickened. They survived? The children survived? Yes. Seo-yoon confirmed. And we are going to wake them all up. But we need your help. You are a doctor. According to the records. Keyleth, the Vorathi said. My name is Keyleth. I was a medical researcher. He tried to sit up, struggled, then managed it with help. The children. We have to save the children. Over the next week, Keyleth worked with Seo-yoon and the human medical team that arrived from Earth. Together, they refined the revival process. Keyleth's knowledge of Vorathi biology, combined with human medical technology, created something neither species could have achieved alone. They woke people slowly. First, more medical staff, then engineers, then teachers. Each revival was the same. Confusion, shock at how much time had passed, grief for everything lost, but also relief, joy, gratitude that someone had finally come. A young Vorathi mother woke to find her daughter still asleep in the next pod. She wept as they revived the child. A teacher woke and immediately asked about his students. 2 siblings woke and held each other, grateful they had not been separated by time. With each revival, the same question came. Who are you? Why did you come? And Jimin gave the same answer each time. We are humans from Earth. We came because you called for help. Because that is what you do when someone needs you. The Vorathi struggled to understand this. But we have been gone for so long. Your people did not even exist when we fell asleep. Why would you care? Because you were afraid and alone. Jimin explained simply. Because you hoped someone good existed in the universe. We wanted to prove you were right to hope. Keyleth translated her words to the growing group of awakened Vorathi. They listened in silence. Then, one by one, they approached Jimin and her crew. Some touched their hands in what seemed to be a gesture of gratitude. Others simply bowed. But Jimin understood. Across 80,000 years, across the death of a civilization, across the vast emptiness of space, a call for help had finally been answered, and both species were changed by it. 3 months after the first revival, all 847 Vorathi had been awakened. The generation ship, once a tomb, now bustled with activity, as 2 species worked together to make it livable again. But everyone knew this was temporary. The real question remained unanswered. What happened next? Jimin called a meeting in what had once been the Vorathi Council chamber. Representatives from both species gathered. Keyleth attended, now serving as the main liaison between the Vorathi and humans. The awakened refugees had chosen him because he understood both hope and loss. We need to discuss the future, Jimin began. Earth has offered sanctuary to all of you. You would be welcomed as citizens, given support to rebuild your lives. Keyleth translated for those Vorathi who had not yet learned human languages. Murmurs spread through the group. Some seemed hopeful. Others looked uncertain. Your people would truly do this? An elderly Vorathi asked. Accept us? We bring nothing. We have no money, no resources, no way to repay such kindness. You bring yourselves, Jimin said simply. That is enough. But why? Another Vorathi pressed. We are not your responsibility. You found us. Yes. But you could leave us at any world. Why take on such a burden? Han Sol spoke up from where he stood near the back. Because we answered your call. That means something to humans. When you answer a call for help, you do not stop halfway. You see it through. A young Vorathi, barely an adult, raised one of her 4 hands. What about the Galactic Council? What do they say? Jimin's expression hardened slightly. The Council has advised us to reconsider. They argue that integration would be too difficult, too expensive. Some suggest leaving you here with supplies to rebuild on your own. Anger flashed through the Vorathi group. Keleth's 3 eyes narrowed. Some do, Jimin admitted. But not Earth. Not humanity. We stand by our offer. Why is your species different? Keyleth asked quietly. What makes humans care when others do not? Jimin thought carefully before answering. Maybe it is because we are young. Maybe it is because we remember being alone and afraid in the universe before we met other species. Or maybe it is just who we choose to be. We believe that how you treat someone in need says everything about who you are. A message alert interrupted the meeting. Seoyun checked it, then looked up with concern. Commander, we have incoming ships, multiple vessels, Galactic Council. Everyone moved to the observation deck. Through the windows, they could see 3 large ships approaching. They took up positions around the generation ship, surrounding it. This is Council Representative Thane. A voice came through the communication system. We are here to take custody of the Vorathi survivors. Earth has exceeded its authority in this matter. Jimin's jaw tightened. She opened a communication channel. Representative Thane, the Vorathi are not prisoners or property to take custody of. They are free beings who can choose their own future. They are refugees from a dead civilization, Thane replied. They require proper placement and integration by experienced species. Humans lack the resources and knowledge for such a task. We seem to be managing fine, Jimin shot back. Your emotional attachment to this situation clouds your judgment, Thane said. We are here to protect both the Vorathi and humanity from a mistake born of sentiment. Keyleth stepped forward, gesturing to Jimin that he wanted to speak. She nodded and activated the video transmission. I am Keyleth of the Vorathi, he said clearly. I speak for my people. We choose to go with Earth. They answered our call when you did not. They saved us when you said to leave us. We trust them because they have earned that trust. You do not understand the situation, Thane argued. You have been asleep for 80,000 years. You know nothing of the current galaxy. I know enough, Keyleth replied firmly. I know who came when we called. I know who worked to save us. I know who offered us a home without asking for anything in return. That tells me everything I need to know. Other Vorathi gathered behind Keyleth, showing their support. Their solidarity was clear. Thane was silent for a moment. Then his tone changed, becoming harder. Very well. If Earth wishes to take on this burden, you are welcome to try. But do not expect galactic resources or support. You do this alone. We have been doing it alone from the start, Jimin pointed out. We are used to it. The Council ships held position for several more hours, as if hoping someone would change their minds. But neither the humans nor the Vorathi wavered. Finally, the Council vessels departed, leaving behind only warnings about the difficulties ahead. That night, Jimin found Keyleth standing in one of the observation areas, looking out at the stars. Can I join you? She asked. Of course. Keyleth replied. He gestured with one of his hands to the stars. Out there somewhere is where my homeworld used to be. I will never see it again. Everything I knew is gone. I am sorry, Jimin said quietly. Do not be, Keyleth said. We knew the risks when we went into stasis. We chose to hope that something good existed in the universe, that someone would care. He turned to look at her with his 3 eyes. You proved we were right. That means more than you know. What will you do on Earth? Jimin asked. You and your people? Live, Keyleth said simply. Build new lives. Share what we know. My people were advanced in many ways. Perhaps our knowledge can help humanity, as much as your kindness helped us. That would be wonderful, Jimin said. But it is not required. We owe you everything, Keyleth corrected gently. You live well, Jimin suggested. You find happiness. You remember that someone cared. That is enough. They stood together in comfortable silence, 2 beings from different species and different eras, connected by a simple act of answering a call. Behind them, Vorathi children played with human crew members, learning new games and teaching old ones. Engineers from both species collaborated on repairs. Teachers shared knowledge and stories. When do we leave for Earth? Keyleth asked. Next week, Jimin replied. We will travel together. All of us. The Persistence and your generation ship. Side by side. I like that, Keyleth said. Not alone anymore. Never alone again, Jimin promised. And as they stood there watching the stars, both knew that something important had changed. Not just for the Vorathi, who had been saved from eternal sleep, not just for humanity, who had proven their values meant more than words, but for the galaxy itself. Because somewhere, someone had finally learned that some calls must always be answered. Some people must always be saved. And some values mattered more than practicality or convenience. The journey to Earth would take months. Integration would take years. Challenges would come. But for now, in this moment, 2 species stood together in the darkness, both changed forever by a signal that traveled 80,000 years, and the answer that finally came. The answer that said, yes, someone is there. Yes, someone cares. Yes, you are not alone. And that made all the difference. 1 year had passed since the Vorathi arrived on Earth. Jimin stood at the window of the Integration Center in Seoul, watching children play in the courtyard below. Human children and Vorathi children ran together, their laughter mixing in the afternoon air. It was a sound that still amazed her every time she heard it. "Commander Park?" a voice said behind her. Jimin turned to see a young assistant approaching. "Just Jimin now," she corrected with a smile. "I retired from active command 6 months ago. Remember? Sorry, old habit." The assistant said, "The Galactic Council is calling. They want to speak with you and Keyleth. They say it is important." Jimin found Keyleth in the research laboratory where he now worked. The Vorathi scientist had adapted well to Earth. Though he still wore the traditional wrappings of his people, he looked up as she entered, his 3 eyes bright with curiosity. "The council wants to talk," Jimin told him. Keyleth set down the equipment he had been calibrating. "About what, I wonder? They have ignored us for a year. Why reach out now?" They made their way to the communication center. On the large screen, the council chamber appeared. The same beings who had dismissed the rescue mission now looked at them with very different expressions. "Commander Park, Researcher Keyleth," the council head began formally. "We wish to invite you both to address the council. Your presence is requested for a matter of galactic importance." 1. Jimin exchanged glances with Keyleth. "What matter would that be?" "We would prefer to discuss it in person," the council head said. "We will send a ship for you. Will you come?" After a moment, Jimin nodded. "We will come." 2 weeks later, Jimin and Keyleth stood before the Galactic Council once again. But this time, the chamber was packed. Representatives from dozens of species filled the seats. News crews recorded everything. This was clearly more than a simple meeting. The council head stood. "We have asked you here to discuss the Vorathi integration. It has been 1 year. We wish to know the results." Keyleth stepped forward. "The results are simple. We live, we work, we contribute to human society. We are no longer refugees waiting to die. We are citizens building lives. And the cost to humanity?" Another council member asked. "Surely such integration has been difficult. Changes, processed. Changes, endes. Changes, 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 endes. Changes. It has been expensive," Jimin admitted honestly. "We spent billions on housing, education, medical care, and support services. We redirected resources from other projects. Yes, it has been difficult." "Then you admit it was a mistake?" the crystal being asked. "No," Jimin said firmly. "It was the best decision we ever made." Murmurs spread through the chamber. The council head raised a hand for silence. "Please explain." Jimin took a breath. "The Vorathi brought knowledge we did not have. Their medical technology has already saved thousands of human lives. Their understanding of sustainable energy has helped us solve problems we struggled with for decades. Their agricultural techniques have increased food production by 20%. But more than that, they reminded us why we explore the stars in the first place." "And why is that?" someone asked. "To find others like us," Jimin said simply. "To know we are not alone. To build something together that neither species could build apart." Keyleth nodded. "Humans saved us from death. But we have given them something too. Knowledge. Yes. But also perspective. Sometimes an old civilization can teach a young one valuable lessons." The council head studied them both. "There is another reason we called you here. In the past year, we have received 17 other ancient distress signals. All of them decades or centuries old. Previously, we would have ignored them. But your actions have raised questions we can no longer avoid." "What questions?" Jimin asked. "Whether we have become too focused on practicality," the council head said slowly. "Whether we have forgotten what it means to help someone, simply because they need help. 3 of the signals we received are recent enough that survivors might still be possible. We are debating whether to respond." Jimin felt her heart rate increase. "You should respond. You have to respond. Why? The crystal being asked. You have shown us that integration is possible, yes, but also expensive and complicated. Why should we take on such burdens? Keyleth moved to the center of the chamber. May I tell you a story? He asked. When no one objected, he continued. 80,000 years ago, my people were dying. We sent a call into the darkness, hoping someone good would hear it. Most of us accepted we would die. But we put our children in stasis because we had hope. Not reasonable hope. Not practical hope. Just hope that somewhere in the vast universe, someone believed that saving lives mattered more than convenience. He paused, looking around the chamber. For 80,000 years, that hope seemed foolish, naive, a waste. But then humans came. They were not the strongest species, not the smartest, not the richest. But they came because they cared. And because they cared, 847 beings who should be dead are alive. Entire bloodlines that should have ended continue. A civilization that should be forgotten lives on. That is one success story, someone argued. It does not guarantee others will work as well. No, it does not, Keyleth agreed. But it guarantees something more important. It guarantees that when someone calls for help, someone will answer. It guarantees that no one will die alone in the dark, wondering if anyone in the universe cares. Can you really put a price on that? I wunges talpint. The chamber fell silent. Ji-min watched, as council members looked at each other. Clearly, uncomfortable. Finally, a new voice spoke. A small, elderly being Ji-min had never seen before. I am Representative Mirth of the Kellyan people. My species is old. Very old. We have been part of this council for 6 million years. And in all that time, I cannot remember the last time we did something simply because it was right. Not because it was practical. Perhaps we have forgotten what it means to be good. Being good is a luxury the young can afford. Another council member said. Those of us who have survived millions of years know that practicality matters. Does it? Mirth challenged. Humans are young, yes, but they are here. They are thriving. They grow stronger every year. Perhaps there is strength in goodness we have forgotten about. The debate continued for hours. Ji-min and Keyleth watched as the council argued about values, resources, responsibility, and the meaning of civilization itself. Finally, the council head called for order. We will vote, the council head announced. The question is this. Should the Galactic Council create a new protocol, requiring response to all distress signals, regardless of age or apparent futility? All in favor? Ji-min held her breath. Slowly, hands and appendages rose throughout the chamber. Not all of them. Not even most of them. But enough. The measure passes, the council head said. From this day forward, all distress signals will be answered. We commit to this as a galaxy. No one will call for help without receiving an answer. Keyleth's 3 eyes filled with tears. He turned to Ji-min, and she saw her own emotion reflected in his expression. Something fundamental had just changed. After the vote, dozens of species approached them. Some thanked them. Others asked for advice on integration. A few admitted shame at their previous dismissal of the rescue mission. That evening, as their ship prepared to return to Earth, Ji-min and Keyleth stood in the observation deck. We did it, Keyleth said quietly. We changed their minds. You did it, Ji-min corrected. Your people, your hope, your refusal to stop believing someone good existed. That is what changed things. And humans answering, Keyleth added. Do not forget that. Hope means nothing if no one answers it. Ji-min smiled. Then we did it together. Back on Earth, news of the council decision spread quickly. The Vorathi community celebrated. Humans celebrated with them. And in living rooms and schools and workplaces, parents told their children about the signal that traveled 80,000 years and the answer that changed a galaxy. In the years that followed, 17 other ancient calls were answered. Not all resulted in survivors. Some found only ruins and records. But every single call received a response. Every single one was honored. And humanity became known throughout the galaxy, not for their weapons or their wealth or their technology. They became known as the species who proved that answering mattered. That caring mattered. That some values transcended practicality. The Persistence, the ship that had made that first impossible journey, was placed in a museum. Children of all species visited it, learning about the day someone finally answered a call that everyone else had ignored. And on the hull, a new inscription was added. In both human language and Vorathi script, it read simply, "They called, we answered." That is enough, because in the end, that was what mattered most. Not being the strongest, or the smartest, or the richest. Just being the ones who cared enough to answer when someone needed help. Just being the ones who chose kindness over practicality, hope over efficiency, and connection over isolation. Just being the ones who understood that in the vast darkness of space, every call for help deserved an answer. And every being deserved to know they were not alone.
The transmission shouldn't have reached the relay station at all. David sat at his console deep in the Andromeda sector, monitoring routine communications between trade vessels and mining operations. His shift had been quiet for 6 hours straight when the encrypted military broadcast punched through every filter they had. At first, he thought it was a system malfunction. The encryption was military grade, far beyond anything civilian stations were supposed to intercept. His fingers flew across the holographic interface, trying to trace the source. The signal bounced from relay to relay, impossibly old yet transmitted only minutes ago. "Commander Ryla, I need you to see this," David called out to his supervisor. The avian officer glided over on her powerful wings, her feathers rustling with annoyance. "Another false alarm, David? We've had 3 this week alone." She leaned down to examine his screen, her sharp eyes scanning the data. Then her feathers went flat against her body, a sign of pure terror in her species. The message was a tactical assessment file. David's translation software struggled with the ancient dialect, but certain words came through with crystal clarity. Target priority alpha. Threat level maximum. Recommended action. Complete sterilization. What civilization is this about? Ryla's voice had lost all its earlier irritation. Her talons gripped the edge of the console hard enough to leave marks. David pulled up the coordinates embedded in the file. His blood turned to ice. "Earth, my homeworld." The file contained surveillance data spanning thousands of years, images of human civilizations rising and falling, battle footage from every major war humanity had ever fought, detailed biological assessments of human physiology, psychology, and combat capabilities. The observers called themselves the Devourers, and they had been watching Earth since before recorded history. "This can't be real," Ryla whispered. "The Devourers are myths, stories to scare young cadets." Then explain the 3 failed invasion attempts documented here. David scrolled through the historical records. Grainy footage showed primitive humans fighting creatures that shouldn't exist. Stone Age tribes using fire and coordinated tactics to drive off alien warriors in powered armor. Medieval soldiers adapting to energy weapons in mere hours. World War-era humans capturing and reverse engineering scout ships. Each invasion attempt had ended in complete failure. The Devourers withdrew with massive casualties. Their reports labeled humanity as unusually aggressive and dangerously adaptive. The final assessment, dated only weeks ago, recommended gathering the largest invasion force in Devourer history before attempting another attack. "We need to alert the Council." Ryla, reach for the emergency broadcast system. "Wait." David grabbed her wing gently. "Look at the transmission path. This message was meant to be intercepted. Someone routed it through civilian channels deliberately. Someone wants the galaxy to know." The implications hit them both simultaneously. If the Devourers were real and planning to invade Earth, every government in the galaxy now knew about it. Earth's exact coordinates were embedded in the file. along with detailed star charts and approach vectors. Any species with basic navigation could find humanity's homeworld. Warning klaxons began blaring across the station. Other communications officers were receiving similar transmissions. The file had been broadcast to thousands of relay points simultaneously. Within minutes, it would reach every corner of civilized space. Ambassador Torvin appeared on the main view screen, his reptilian face grave. All stations, this is an emergency council broadcast. We have received credible intelligence of an imminent threat. All military forces are to report to their designated rally points. Civilian traffic is restricted until further notice. They're evacuating. Ryla's voice shook. They're going to abandon Earth to save themselves. David accessed the Devourer file again, diving deeper into the tactical assessments. What he found made his hands tremble. The Devourers weren't just planning to invade Earth. They had identified humanity as an existential threat to their expansion. The file contained projections of human technological advancement. In every simulation, humans reached interstellar travel within a century and began rapidly expanding. In every scenario, humans eventually challenged Devourer dominance. They're not invading because they want Earth, David realized. They're invading because they're afraid of what humanity will become. The Devourer's strategic analysis was brutally honest. Humans evolved on a high-gravity world with extreme environmental conditions. Human endurance exceeded every known species by orders of magnitude. Human pain tolerance and injury recovery were classified as impossible by galactic medical standards. Most damning of all, humans possessed what the Devourers called weaponization instinct. Humanity could turn anything into a weapon given enough time and motivation. There's something else here. David pulled up a classified section of the file. Previous invasion attempts failed because humans don't fight like other species. They don't have warriors and civilians. When threatened, the entire population mobilizes. Children, elderly, everyone becomes a combatant. Ryla read over his shoulder. This section here. They tested human prisoners, subjected them to the same assimilation process they use on other species. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. It didn't work. Human minds rejected the hive-mind connection. Some prisoners even damaged the Devourer collective consciousness before dying. The station's communications array exploded with incoming transmissions. Dozens of alien governments demanding answers. Independent ships requesting navigation routes away from Earth. News networks clamoring for interviews. In less than an hour, Earth had gone from an unknown backwater world to the most talked-about location in the galaxy. I need to warn them. David activated his personal communicator, trying to reach Earth. Static filled the channel. Someone was jamming long-range communications to the Sol system. The Council, Ryla said bitterly. They're buying time to evacuate their people before Earth realizes what's coming. David pulled up the Devourer fleet composition. 15,000 warships, planetary bombardment platforms, biological weapons, assimilation technology. It was the largest military force ever assembled, and it was already en route. Estimated arrival time, 72 hours. We need to get to Earth. David stood abruptly. If the Council won't help, I'll warn them myself. That's desertion, Ryla pointed out. That's my species facing extinction. David began downloading every piece of the Devourer file. Are you going to stop me? Ryla spread her wings, blocking his path. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Then she folded her wings and stepped aside. I'm coming with you. Someone needs to testify to the Council about what we found. Besides, her beak curved in what might have been a smile. I've always wanted to see a Deathworld up close. The emergency alarm changed pitch. New transmissions flooded in. The Devourer fleet had been detected crossing in a mapped space. They weren't hiding anymore. They wanted everyone to know they were coming. It was a message to the entire galaxy. This is what happens to species who threaten us. David and Ryla ran for the docking bay. The Galactic Council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives from 300 species shouted over each other, their translation devices creating a cacophony of overlapping voices. Ambassador Torvin stood at the central podium, his scaled hands gripping the edges as he tried to restore order. Silence. His voice boomed through the amplification system. We face a crisis unlike anything in recorded history. The Devourers are not a myth. They are real, and they are moving against a member world. A holographic display materialized above the chamber, showing the Devourer fleet advancing through space. Gasps and cries of alarm rippled through the assembled delegates. Many had never seen a military force of such magnitude. The fleet stretched across thousands of kilometers, a dark mass of angular ships bristling with weapons. "Why Earth?" demanded a crystalline ambassador whose species communicated through light pulses. "They are primitives, barely touched their own moon. Why would the Devourers commit such resources?" Torvin activated another display. Because of this, the hologram shifted to show footage from the Devourer archives. Ancient humans hunting massive predators with nothing but sharpened sticks. Medieval armies adapting to gunpowder in real-time combat. Modern soldiers surviving injuries that would kill any other species. The Devourers have attempted to invade Earth 3 times across their history, Torvin explained. Each attempt ended in complete failure, not tactical withdrawal, complete failure. Entire invasion forces destroyed or driven off by what should have been primitive resistance. A mammalian delegate from the core world stood. "Surely you're not suggesting we risk a war with the Devourers over one insignificant world? We should evacuate any useful resources and let them have it." Useful resources? A new voice cut through the chamber. David had arrived, still wearing his civilian station uniform. Ryla walked beside him, her official credentials granting them emergency access. "You mean the 8 billion humans living there? Those useful resources?" "You're out of order," Torvin began, but David kept talking. "I've read the complete Devourer assessment file. Every line, every analysis, every failed invasion report." He uploaded the data directly to the Chamber's network. The Devourers aren't invading because they want Earth. They're invading because they're terrified of humanity. The displays around the chamber filled with data, biological comparisons showing human muscle density, bone strength, and cardiovascular efficiency, psychological profiles detailing human persistence hunting, tribal warfare instincts, and pattern recognition abilities, technological assessments projecting human advancement curves. Humans evolved on a world with twice standard gravity, David continued. Their atmosphere is 21% oxygen, creating a hyperactive metabolism. Their planet has extreme temperature variations, forcing constant adaptation. They're persistence predators who can track prey for days without stopping. They can survive injuries that would kill most species here instantly. A insectoid ambassador clicked its mandibles nervously. "This is fear-mongering. No single species could be so dangerous." "Then explain this." Ryla activated a specific file. Footage played of Devourer soldiers in full combat armor facing primitive human warriors. The humans fought with bronze weapons and leather shields. They should have been massacred in seconds. Instead, the footage showed humans using coordinated tactics, feigned retreats, and environmental advantages. They set traps, used psychological warfare, and adapted to energy weapons within hours. The Devourers lost 40% of their ground forces in that engagement, Ryla stated. Against opponents who had never seen advanced technology, the Devourer commander's final report stated that humans treat warfare as a natural extension of existence. They don't have soldiers and civilians. They have warriors waiting for a reason to fight. The chamber fell silent. Delegates stared at the data with growing horror. This wasn't just about one world anymore. This was about understanding what kind of species humanity truly was. There's more. David pulled up the assimilation reports. The Devourers use a hive mind connection to control conquered species. They tested it on human prisoners. Not only did it fail, the humans somehow reversed the connection. 3 prisoners managed to broadcast pain and fear directly into the Devourer collective consciousness before dying. The psychological damage took the Devourers months to recover from. Impossible. The crystalline ambassador's light patterns flickered with disbelief. "It's in their own reports," David shot back. "The Devourers classify humans as assimilation-resistant and recommend complete orbital sterilization before any ground engagement." They're bringing 15,000 warships, not because humanity is weak, but because they're the only species that has ever successfully beaten the Devourers in ground combat. Torvin studied the data with ancient eyes. The projections here. If humans achieve interstellar travel, what happens? David pulled up the Devourer strategic simulations. Every scenario played out the same way. Humans expanding rapidly, establishing colonies on worlds other species avoided, adapting to environments that should be uninhabitable. In every projection, humanity reached military parity with the Devourers within 2 centuries. In several scenarios, humans actively hunted the Devourers to extinction. They're not invading Earth, David said quietly. They're trying to prevent humanity from ever leaving Earth. This is a preemptive strike against a species they believe will eventually threaten their entire civilization. The implications settled over the chamber like a heavy blanket. If the Devourers feared humanity this much, what did that say about humanity's potential? What did it say about what humans might become? We cannot allow this. A delegate from the Outer Rim spoke up. Not because we care about humans specifically, but because we cannot set a precedent of allowing the Devourers to destroy species preemptively. Today it's Earth. Tomorrow it could be any of our worlds. Arguments erupted again. Some species advocated for immediate military intervention. Others insisted on neutrality. A few even suggested helping the Devourers to gain favor. The chamber descended into political chaos. David watched the debates with growing disgust. These beings were discussing his entire species as if they were a strategic problem to be solved. 8 billion lives reduced to political calculations and risk assessments. I'm going to Earth, David announced. With or without council approval. They deserve to know what's coming. You'll never make it through the quarantine, Torvin warned. The council has blockaded the Sol system. No ships in or out until we decide on a course of action. Then I'll break through. David turned to leave. Wait, Ryla called out. She addressed the council. We have 72 hours before the Devourer fleet arrives. Instead of debating, we should be analyzing human defensive capabilities. If they've beaten the Devourers before, they might do it again. With what? Scoffed the mammalian delegate. They have no space fleet, no energy weapons, no understanding of the threat they face. David smiled coldly. You're wrong about that last part. He pulled up one final file. I accessed Earth's deep space monitoring network. They've been tracking the Devourer fleet since it entered their detection range. They know exactly what's coming. He paused. And they've gone completely dark. Every communication satellite, every broadcast, every signal. Earth just vanished from the Galactic network. The chamber froze. A species that goes dark before an invasion wasn't preparing to surrender. They were preparing to fight. The question was whether 8 billion humans, armed with primitive weapons, could possibly stand against the most terrifying military force in the galaxy. Council dismissed. Torvin announced heavily. All delegates, return to your homeworlds and prepare your governments. What happens at Earth in 72 hours will determine the future of this galaxy. David ran for the docking bay. He had to get home. He had to warn his species. But deep down, a strange pride filled his chest. Humanity didn't know about the Devourers, didn't know about the Council's debates, didn't know they were being discussed like laboratory specimens. They just knew something was coming, and they did what humans had always done when faced with existential threats. They went hunting. Ryan watched the stars from his office window in Colorado. The building was deep inside Cheyenne Mountain, hidden beneath hundreds of meters of granite and steel. Around him, military personnel moved with controlled urgency, their faces grim but focused. The screens on the wall showed a single image that had changed everything. 15,000 alien warships approaching Earth. Sir, we have confirmation from deep space radar. A young officer approached with a tablet. The fleet will reach lunar orbit in 48 hours. They're not even trying to hide anymore. Good. Ryan turned from the window. Let them think we're easy prey. He was tall and weathered, with scars that spoke of battles fought in places that officially didn't exist. His eyes held the cold calculation of someone who had seen humanity's darkest capabilities and understood exactly how to weaponize them. President Laura entered the command center without ceremony. Security parted for her automatically. She had been a general before entering politics, and it showed in how she carried herself. Status report. All protocols are active. Ryan pulled up a global display. Protocol Prometheus is fully operational. Every asset we've been hiding for the past 70 years is now online. The display showed Earth's surface covered in markers, military installations that didn't exist on any public map, weapons platforms disguised as communication towers, underground bases that had been built during the Cold War and expanded in secret ever since. Orbital platforms registered as weather satellites but armed with kinetic weapons. How did we know? Laura asked. How did we know to prepare for this? We didn't, Ryan admitted. But after Roswell, after every unexplained sighting, after every piece of recovered technology that shouldn't exist, some of us started asking questions, started preparing, started assuming that if we weren't alone, we needed to be ready. He pulled up another file. In 1952, we recovered a damaged scout ship in the Pacific. The pilot didn't survive, but the ship's computer did. It took us 40 years to crack the language, but when we did, he paused. We learned we weren't the first world they'd visited. We learned about the Devourers. We learned what happens to species that can't defend themselves. Laura studied the technical specifications scrolling across the screens. The Council tried to blockade our system, tried to keep us isolated until they decided what to do with us. Let them. Ryan's smile was predatory. We've been preparing for an invasion, not a diplomatic summit. Every failed communication attempt, every ignored first contact scenario, it just gave us more time to weaponize everything we could. An engineer named Sophie rushed in carrying a prototype device. General Ryan, President Laura, the resonance weapon is ready for field testing. Explain in simple terms, Laura commanded. Sophie set the device on the table. We discovered that the Devourer hive mind operates on a specific quantum frequency. This weapon doesn't hurt them physically. It broadcasts human emotional responses directly into their collective consciousness. Fear, anger, pain, everything they use to control other species, we can use against them. You weaponized our emotions, Laura said slowly. We weaponized our humanity, Sophie corrected. The Devourers assimilate other species because those species think in predictable patterns. Humans don't. We're chaotic, emotional, individually driven. When they try to connect with us, they get overwhelmed. This weapon amplifies that effect. Ryan picked up the device. How many can we manufacture in 48 hours? With our current production capacity? Maybe 500 units. Sophie looked apologetic. That's enough. Ryan handed it back. Install them on our fastest atmospheric fighters. I want pilots who understand what we're asking them to do. Laura pulled up a communication interface. I need to address the planet. She looked at Ryan. They deserve to know what's coming. 20 minutes later, every screen on Earth displayed the same image. President Laura standing in front of the United Nations building, the weight of 8 billion lives visible in her expression. Citizens of Earth, she began, for decades, your governments have hidden the truth about our place in the universe. We are not alone. We have never been alone. And now, an alien force called the Devourers is coming to destroy our world. Panic could have erupted. Riots, chaos, the collapse of social order. Instead, something remarkable happened. People gathered in their homes, in their streets, in their places of worship. They listened. The Galactic Council has abandoned us, Laura continued. They debate whether we're worth saving while an invasion fleet approaches. But I didn't address you today to ask for hope. I addressed you to tell you what we're going to do about it. She pulled up images of the hidden military assets. For 70 years, humanity has been preparing for this moment. We have weapons they don't know about, technology reverse-engineered from crashed alien ships. Most importantly, we have something the Devourers fear: each other. The Devourers tried to invade Earth 3 times in our history. Laura's voice hardened. They failed each time because they underestimated what humans become when threatened. They expected warriors. They got entire populations that refused to surrender. They expected military targets. They got millions of individuals who turned farming tools into weapons and fought until the invaders fled. She leaned closer to the camera. In 48 hours, they will try again. They bring 15,000 Warships, they bring weapons that can burn continents. They bring the strength of 1,000 conquered worlds. But they forgot one critical fact. We're the species that climbed to the top of Earth's food chain by refusing to be prey. We're the species that survived ice ages, plagues, and our own weapons of mass destruction. We are humanity, and we do not go quietly. Around the world, something shifted. The panic that should have paralyzed civilization instead crystallized into cold determination. Military recruitment centers were overwhelmed with volunteers. Engineers offered their expertise. Scientists shared theories on how to counter alien technology. Even children began making supplies for the defensive positions being established in every city. David's ship finally broke through the council blockade. He landed in Washington and rushed to the command center. President Laura, I have the complete Devourer tactical assessment. Everything they know about us. Everything. They fear. Laura pulled up the data. Her expression grew harder as she read. They're afraid we'll hunt them. She looked at Ryan. They're right to be afraid. Ryan gathered his command staff. New orders. We're not defending Earth. We're turning Earth into a trap. Every weapons platform, every hidden base, every orbital asset. I want them positioned to create a kill zone around our planet. When the Devourers enter our space, they won't be invading. They'll be walking into the largest ambush in human history. Sophie approached with new data. General, I analyzed their fleet composition. They're using a standard siege formation. It's designed to overwhelm planetary defenses through sheer numbers. What's the weakness? Ryan demanded. They assume planets defend from the ground up, Sophie explained. Their shields are strongest on the lower hull, designed to protect against surface-to-orbit weapons. But their top armor is thinner. If we could attack from above. Ryan's eyes lit up. The lunar base. He pulled up schematics of humanity's secret installation on the moon's far side. We've been mining helium-3 for fusion research. But we also installed mass drivers, kinetic launch systems capable of accelerating projectiles to a significant fraction of light speed. You're going to throw rocks at them, David said incredulously. I'm going to throw relativistic kill vehicles at them. Ryan corrected. Each projectile will hit with the force of a nuclear weapon, and they'll never see them coming until it's too late. Laura approved the strategy. Do it, and broadcast everything. I want every species in the galaxy to watch. I want them to see what happens when you corner humanity. The countdown began. 48 hours until the Devourers arrived. 48 hours for humanity to show the universe why Earth had been marked as a priority threat. 48 hours until the galaxy learned why Deathworld predators don't make good prey. Commander Ryla watched from her observation ship as the Devourer fleet entered the Sol system. She had defied direct orders to be here, positioning her vessel at a safe distance where she could monitor the invasion. Around the galaxy, trillions of beings watched the same feeds. Every news network, every government monitoring station, every independent observer with a telescope pointed toward Earth. They're deploying siege formations. Her tactical officer reported. The insectoid officers. Antennae twitched nervously. Standard Devourer doctrine. Overwhelming force concentrated on strategic targets. The Devourer fleet spread across space like a dark stain. Their ships were massive, angular constructs that seemed to absorb light. Each vessel bristled with weapons capable of glassing a continent. Together, they represented the accumulated military might of an empire that had been consuming civilizations for millennia. What are the humans doing? Ryla leaned forward. Earth appeared on the main screen, a blue-green jewel seemingly defenseless against the approaching armada. Nothing. The tactical officers sounded confused. No fleet deployment, no planetary shields, no visible defensive positions. They're just waiting. On Earth, Ryan stood in the command center watching the same displays. Distance to optimal firing range? 15 minutes. An officer responded. The Devourers are being cautious. They're scanning for weapons platforms. Let them scan. Ryan's voice was ice. They're looking for energy signatures, shield generators, conventional military installations. They won't find what we've built. Sophie monitored her resonance weapons from a separate station. Pilots are ready. All 500 units are installed and calibrated. General, are we really asking them to do this? I'm not asking, Ryan said quietly. Every pilot volunteered. They know what happens if we fail. They know what happens if we succeed. They chose to fight. The Devourer flagship broadcast a message in 70 languages. Humans of Earth, you have been selected for assimilation into the Devourer Collective. Surrender now, and your deaths will be painless. Resist, and we will burn your world to bedrock. You have 1 hour to comply. Laura appeared on every screen across Earth. To the Devourers, you should have stayed away. She cut the transmission. The response shocked the watching galaxy. Humans didn't plead, didn't negotiate, didn't even acknowledge the threat. They simply refused. They're insane, Ryla's tactical officer whispered. They have no chance. Why throw away lives for pride? It's not pride. David's voice came through the communication system. He had transmitted his observations to Ryla's ship. It's principle. Humans don't surrender to bullies. They'd rather die fighting than live on their knees. The Devourer fleet moved closer. Their weapons began charging, energy signatures spiking across the electromagnetic spectrum. Planetary bombardment platforms took position. The galaxy held its breath. Then Earth struck first. The lunar mass drivers fired. Dozens of projectiles launched from the moon's far side, accelerated to relativistic speeds by kilometers-long magnetic rails. They were simple chunks of iron and nickel, refined from asteroid mining operations. But at 0.97 light speed, they became weapons of extinction. The Devourers had milliseconds to react. Their shields, optimized for energy weapons, offered minimal protection against kinetic impacts. The first projectile struck a Devourer cruiser amidships. The ship didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist, vaporized by the relativistic collision. The shockwave tore through 3 more vessels. Impossible. Ryla watched her screens fill with impact data. Those are kinetic weapons. Ancient technology. How are they achieving such velocities? Because humans don't think like other species, David explained. Everyone else developed energy weapons and abandoned kinetics. Humans kept asking, what if we made the old weapons better? The Devourer fleet scattered, their perfect formation breaking apart. Commanders who had conquered hundreds of worlds suddenly faced an enemy that didn't follow conventional warfare doctrine. 20 ships had been destroyed in the opening salvo, and the humans hadn't even deployed their fleet yet. Because they didn't have a fleet, that was their advantage. Launch atmospheric fighters, Ryan ordered. From hidden bunkers across Earth's surface, thousands of small craft emerged. They weren't designed for space combat. They were modified atmospheric fighters, barely capable of reaching low orbit, but each one carried a resonance weapon. Each one was piloted by a volunteer who understood they probably wouldn't return. The Devourers targeted the fighters, their point defense systems tracking the incoming craft. Energy beams lanced through space, destroying dozens of human vessels. But the fighters were fast, maneuverable, and there were thousands of them. They swarmed the Devourer, fleet like angry hornets. Sophie watched the tactical display. Resonance weapons activating, broadcasting on all frequencies. The effect was immediate. Devourer ships began erratic maneuvers. Their hive mind connection, their greatest strength, became a vulnerability. Every fighter that got close enough to broadcast hit them with concentrated human emotion. Fear from soldiers who had seen combat. Rage from parents protecting their children. Grief from those who had lost everything. Pain from wounded survivors who chose to fight anyway. The Devourer collective consciousness, designed to process logical tactical data, couldn't handle the chaotic flood of human feeling. Pilots reported Devourer ships firing on each other, commanders issuing contradictory orders, entire squadrons breaking formation without reason. This is psychological warfare on a species-wide scale, Ryla breathed. They're not just fighting the Devourers. They're fighting their entire way of thinking. On Earth, citizens watched the battle through augmented reality displays. They saw their fighters darting between massive alien warships. They saw Devourer vessels exploding or drifting powerless. They saw humanity proving that technological superiority meant nothing against creative desperation. A young alien named Chris watched from a civilian transport far from the battle. He was barely an adult by species standards, fleeing with his family from a colony near human space. His parents had forbidden him from watching the feeds, but he couldn't look away. "Father," he called out, "the humans are winning." "Impossible." His father checked the displays, then froze. The Devourers were retreating, their fleet pulling back from Earth's orbit. Not a tactical withdrawal, a rout. Ships fled in disorder, pursued by swarms of human fighters that shouldn't have been able to threaten them. "They marked Earth as a target," Chris whispered. "They sent 15,000 warships, and the humans are driving them away." Across the galaxy, the reaction was similar. Species that had submitted to the Devourers without resistance watched in disbelief. Governments that had abandoned Earth to save themselves suddenly questioned that decision. Young beings of every species looked at the battlefields and thought, if humans can fight, why can't we? Ryan watched the tactical display with satisfaction. Phase 2. Deploy orbital platforms. What the Devourers thought were weather satellites suddenly activated. Hidden weapons systems came online. Railguns, laser arrays, and converted mining equipment began firing on the retreating fleet. Every piece of human infrastructure in orbit had been designed with dual purposes. Every satellite, every space station, every research platform was a weapon waiting to be used. "General, we're detecting anomalies in the Devourer flagship," Sophie reported. "Their hive mind is fragmenting. The resonance weapons caused more damage than we projected." "Explain." Laura had arrived in the command center. "The Devourers operate as a collective consciousness." Sophie pulled up the data. "Individual units have minimal autonomy. When we broadcast human emotions, we didn't just confuse them. We gave their drones something they've never experienced. Individual thoughts. Some are breaking free from the hive mind entirely." David accessed the communication channels. "We're receiving transmissions from Devourer ships. Some are asking for asylum. Others are requesting permission to join our defense fleet." The galaxy watching the battle went silent. The Devourers, the most feared military force in known space, were defecting. Individual ships were broadcasting surrender codes. Pilots who had been enslaved by the collective consciousness for decades were suddenly free, and they chose humanity's side. Ryan made a decision: grant asylum to any Devourer vessel that surrenders, but keep weapons locked on them. Trust takes time to build. "Sir," an officer interrupted, "the Devourer mothership is charging its planet killer weapon. If they fire, Earth won't survive." The celebration died instantly. Everyone in the command center understood what that meant. The Devourers weren't trying to invade anymore. They were trying to eliminate the threat completely. If they couldn't conquer Earth, they would destroy it. The planet killer weapon on the Devourer mothership began its charging sequence. Energy readings spiked across every monitoring station in the solar system. Ryla's tactical officer calculated the blast radius. If that fires, it will sterilize everything within the habitable zone. Earth, the moon, Mars, all gone. Ryan stared at the countdown timer. "How long until it reaches full charge?" 8 minutes. Sophie's voice shook. "General, we don't have anything that can penetrate that ship's shields. It's 3 times the size of anything else in their fleet." Laura stood beside Ryan, her face carved from stone. "What are our options?" "We have one." Ryan pulled up a classified file. "Operation Fury. We never wanted to use it because it requires a human crew to manually deliver the payload. It is a suicide mission." The plan appeared on screen. A small craft would need to breach the mothership's shields, fly directly into the charging weapon's energy port, and detonate a fusion device inside the ship's power core. The explosion would destroy the mothership, but also vaporize the delivery craft instantly. There would be no ejection, no rescue, no survival. "I'll go." David stepped forward. "I brought this war to Earth's doorstep. Let me help end it." "No." Ryan shook his head. "You're not a pilot. This requires someone who can navigate at combat speed while under fire." He accessed the personnel roster. "I'm going. I've flown Black Ops missions that don't officially exist. This is just one more." "General, we need you here," Laura protested. "You need Earth to survive," Ryan countered. "I'm the best pilot we have for this." "You know it. I know it. We don't have time to debate." Sophie grabbed Ryan's arm. "There has to be another way. We can't ask you to die." "You're not asking," Ryan smiled sadly. "I'm volunteering. Besides, someone needs to show these aliens that humans don't just fight for survival. We fight for principles, for our home, For each other. He looked at the countdown. 6 minutes. I need to go now. He ran for the hangar bay. Behind him, Laura made an announcement to the Global Defense Network. All forces, this is President Laura. General Ryan is attempting a critical strike against the Devourer mothership. Provide covering fire. Keep their fighters off him. This is our last chance. Ryan's craft launched from a hidden facility in Nevada. It was small, designed for stealth rather than combat. Behind him, every operational fighter and orbital platform began firing on the Devourer fleet. They weren't trying to win anymore. They were buying time for one person to reach the mothership. This is Ryan to all human forces. He broadcast. It's been an honor. Take care of our world. He cut the channel before anyone could respond. Sentiment wouldn't help him focus. The mothership loomed ahead, a massive construct that dwarfed anything humanity had built. Its shields glowed with absorbed energy from continuous weapons fire. Ryan's navigation computer plotted approach vectors. All of them showed 0% survival probability. Good thing I never trusted computers, he muttered. Taking manual control. Across the galaxy, billions watched the lone human craft approach the Devourer flagship. News commentators struggled to find words. Many went silent. In the Galactic Council chambers, Ambassador Torvin watched with ancient eyes. That's their general, he said quietly. Their military commander is flying the mission himself. Why? Another delegate asked. Why not send a subordinate? Why not use a remote drone? Because humans lead from the front, Torvin replied. Because they believe in the missions they order. Because they're willing to die for principles we've forgotten. Ryan dodged incoming fire, his craft twisting through space in patterns that made alien pilots dizzy. Devourer fighters pursued, their weapons tracking his every move. Then something unexpected happened. The surrendered Devourer ships, the ones granted asylum, turned their weapons on their former comrades. Free drones protected. The human general who had given them back their individuality. Unknown human. A broken transmission came through. You freed us from slavery. Let us help free our others. A dozen ex-Devourer fighters formed a defensive perimeter around Ryan's craft. Copy that. Ryan's voice was tight with emotion. Let's make them regret coming here. For minutes until the planet killer fired. Ryan pushed his craft to maximum speed. The mothership's shields are designed to stop large attacks, not single. Fighters. He aimed for a thermal exhaust port. A design flaw that the Devourers probably never expected anyone to exploit. Young Chris watched from his family's transport. He's going to make it, he whispered. Look, father, he's going to reach the ship. Even if he does, his father said sadly, that's not survival. That's sacrifice. Isn't that what makes it matter? Chris couldn't look away. He knows he'll die. He's doing it anyway. 3 minutes. Ryan's shields failed. Damage indicators lit up across his console. A Devourer beam weapon grazed his craft, tearing away the starboard maneuvering fin. The ship went into an uncontrolled spin. Any normal pilot would have ejected. Ryan fought the controls, using the momentum to accelerate faster. Clever, Ryla breathed. He's using the damage to build velocity. That's not training. That's instinct. 2 minutes. Ryan penetrated the mothership's shields. Devourer point defense systems fired. His craft took multiple hits. Life support failed. The cockpit lost pressure. Ryan's suit automatically sealed, but warnings screamed that he had limited oxygen. Doesn't matter, he growled. I just need 2 more minutes. He flew through the massive ship's superstructure, dodging support beams and energy conduits. The charging weapons port appeared ahead, a glowing aperture 300 meters wide. Energy crackled around it. Radiation levels that would kill any organic being in seconds. 1 minute. Ryan armed the fusion device, set it for immediate detonation. There was a manual override, a way to delay the explosion and possibly escape. He ignored it. Sophie watched the telemetry. General, you can set a timer. You might make it out. Negative. Ryan's response came through static. If I delay, the weapon might fire before detonation. Can't risk it. Tell Laura. Tell everyone. Earth is worth it. He paused. And tell the galaxy. This is what happens when you threaten humanity. We don't surrender. We don't negotiate. We fight. And we win. 30 seconds. Ryan's craft entered the energy port. Radiation cooked his shields. Alarms screamed. His vision blurred. Didn't matter. He could see the power core ahead, a massive reactor feeding the planet killer weapon. For Earth, he whispered. 10 seconds. He released the fusion device. It tumbled toward the reactor core. Ryan's craft followed, both projectiles accelerating into the heart of the Devourer mothership. 5 seconds. The galaxy watched. Trillions of beings held their breath. 0. The explosion was visible from Earth's surface. A miniature star bloomed in orbit. The Devourer mothership collapsed inward, its structure failing as the power core detonated. The planet killer weapon, still charging, discharged all its energy into the dying ship. The combined blast tore through a quarter of the Devourer fleet. Shockwaves rippled across space. In the command center, silence. Then someone began to clap. Others joined. Within seconds, the entire facility erupted in cheers. Not celebration. Not joy. Recognition. Respect for a sacrifice that saved 8 billion lives. Laura's face was wet with tears. He did it. He actually did it. Sophie collapsed in her chair. The remaining Devourer ships are retreating. The fleet is broken. We won. On Ryla's observation ship, her tactical officer stared at the readings. Commander, that was one person, one human, against the most powerful weapon in the Devourer arsenal. And he destroyed it. Ryla watched the debris field where Ryan's craft had been. That's what makes them dangerous, she said quietly. That's what makes them exceptional. They don't just fight to survive. They fight because they believe some things are worth dying for. Young Chris watched the explosion fade. Father, I want to join the Human Alliance. I want to fight like they do. His father looked at his son, saw the determination there. You understand what that means? Humans don't accept half measures. If you fight beside them, you fight with everything you have. I know. Chris straightened. That's exactly what I want to learn. Across the galaxy, similar conversations happened. Young beings inspired by human sacrifice. Old civilizations shamed by their own cowardice. The Devourer fleet limped away from Earth system, their numbers decimated. Their mythology of invincibility shattered. David stood in the command center, watching the tactical displays. They'll come back, he said quietly. The Devourers don't forgive defeats. They'll return with more ships, more weapons. Laura nodded. Let them. Next time we won't be alone. She opened a communication channel to every species that had watched the battle. This is President Laura of Earth. To anyone listening, we just proved the Devourers can be beaten. If you're tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of surrendering, come to Earth. We'll teach you to fight. Together, we can end their reign of terror. The message sent ripples across civilization. For the first time in millennia, someone had offered hope instead of submission. 3 months after the battle, Earth looked different. Construction crews worked around the clock repairing damage. Memorial sites appeared where fighters had launched on their final missions. Ryan's name was carved into every monument, but the biggest change wasn't visible from the surface. Commander Ryla stood in what had been her observation ship. Now it served as the flagship for the first multinational defense fleet. Around her, officers from 17 different species coordinated patrol routes. In the corner, young Chris monitored communication channels. He had kept his promise. Joined the Human Alliance. Learned to fight like a Deathworlder. Commander, we have another convoy arriving, her tactical officer reported. This makes 60 ships this week. Word is spreading faster than we anticipated. David entered the bridge, now wearing the uniform of Earth's first galactic ambassador. It's not just word spreading. It's hope. For the first time in generations, species believe they can fight back. The view screen showed the arriving ships, transports filled with volunteers, engineers offering their expertise, scientists sharing technology. Even the Galactic Council had quietly begun supporting Earth's alliance. Ambassador Torvin had resigned in protest of the Council's initial cowardice. Now he served as a senior advisor to Laura's government. How many species have formally joined? Ryla asked. 43. David pulled up the roster. Another 100 are in negotiations. The Devourers conquered through fear. We're building something stronger. Cooperation based on mutual survival. Sophie appeared on a secondary screen. She was still on Earth, But her work had evolved. Ambassador David, the new generation of resonance weapons is ready, and we've refined the technology. Non-lethal versions that can free Devourer drones without killing them. We're not just fighting anymore. We're liberating. Good. David approved. Every free drone is one less enemy, and one more voice telling the galaxy that the Devourers can be beaten. President Laura held a press conference in the rebuilt UN building. Journalists from dozens of species attended. 3 months ago, the Devourers marked Earth as their next target. She began. They sent their largest fleet. They threatened to sterilize our world. They failed, not because humanity is superior, but because we refuse to accept defeat. Today, I'm announcing the formation of the Terran Defense Coalition. Any species threatened by the Devourers has a place here. We will train your soldiers. We will share our technology. We will stand beside you when the Devourers return, because they will return. And when they do, they'll face not just humanity, but every species that's tired of living in fear. The announcement was met with thunderous approval. Young Chris watched from the bridge, his chest swelling with pride. His father's voice came through on a private channel. Son, I saw your service record. You've been in 3 engagements already. Your mother worries. Tell her I'm learning from the best. Chris responded, the humans don't treat me like a liability. They treat me like a warrior. Yesterday, Lieutenant Sophie taught me how to turn a mining laser into a defensive weapon. Did you know humans used to fight with sharpened metal before they discovered energy weapons? They have thousands of years of combat experience we never developed. His father's silence spoke volumes. Finally, be safe and make us proud. Ryla called up the strategic display. Red markers showed confirmed Devourer activity. After their defeat at Earth, they had withdrawn to their core territories, but intelligence suggested they were rebuilding, planning. David, we have reports from the Outer Rim. The Devourers are testing our response times. Small raids on isolated colonies. They're probing for weaknesses. Then we respond. David's voice hardened. Not defensively. We hunt them. Show every species in the galaxy that we meant what we said. The Devourer's reign of terror is over. The first Terran Defense Coalition strike force launched a week later. 36 ships, a mix of human craft and alien vessels, all armed with a combination of conventional weapons and Sophie's resonance technology. Young Chris served as communications officer on the flagship. His hand shook slightly as they approached the target system. Steady. A human pilot named Rachel sat beside him. First combat is always nerve-wracking. Remember your training. Trust your crew. I'm ready. Chris straightened. What's our objective? A Devourer listening post. Rachel explained. They've been monitoring trade routes, planning their next raids. We're going to send a message. Nowhere is safe for them anymore. The engagement lasted 17 minutes. The Devourer station had minimal defenses. They weren't prepared for a coordinated assault. Resonance weapons disabled their hive mind connection. Boarding teams, led by human marines, secured the facility. Instead of destroying it, they captured it, downloaded intelligence, and freed 200 enslaved drones. This is Chris to command. The young alien broadcast, station secured, minimal casualties. The free drones are requesting asylum. David watched the operation from Earth. Granted, bring them home. He looked at Sophie. How many is that now? Nearly 5,000 free drones, she reported. Each one provides intelligence about Devourer operations. Each one tells their story. The psychological impact is significant. Devourer recruitment is dropping. Some of their controlled species are beginning to resist assimilation. Laura joined them in the command center. I just received a communication from the Council. They want to officially recognize the coalition, provide military support, resources. What changed their minds? David asked. Fear, Laura said bluntly. They're afraid humanity will become what the Devourers were, a dominant military force. By joining us, they maintain some influence. I accepted. We need their resources, but I made it clear. We're not building an empire. We're building a defense network. Any species that joins does so as equals. On the bridge of Ryla's flagship, an alert sounded. Commander, we're detecting a massive Devourer fleet, heading toward the Epsilon sector. Looks like they're planning a major offensive. How many ships? Ryla demanded. At least 8,000. They've rebuilt faster than we projected. David's voice came through. This is it. This is their counterstrike. They want to prove Earth was a fluke, that they're still the dominant power. He paused. All coalition forces, prepare for full mobilization. We're not letting them destroy another world. Within hours, the coalition fleet assembled, human ships alongside alien vessels. Sophie's resonance weapons installed on every craft. Young Chris sat at his station, watching the fleet grow. Lieutenant Rachel, why do humans do this? Risk everything for species you barely know. Rachel looked at the young alien. Because someone has to. Because if we don't stand up to bullies, they never stop. Because every species has the right to exist without fear, she smiled. Besides, you're not some species we barely know anymore. Your crew, your family, we protect our own. The coalition fleet jumped to hyperspace. Destination, Epsilon Sector. Mission, stop the Devourer offensive. Prove that Earth's victory wasn't luck. Laura addressed the fleet before they left. 3 months ago, the galaxy watched Earth fight alone. Today, you carry humanity's message to the stars. We will not surrender. We will not hide. We will not abandon each other. The Devourers chose to mark Earth as their target. That was their mistake. Now, we're marking them. Hunt them. Free their slaves. Dismantle their empire. Show the galaxy what happens when prey becomes predator. The fleet emerged from hyperspace directly into the Devourer formation. The element of surprise gave them critical seconds. Resonance weapons fired first, broadcasting human defiance. Devourer coordination faltered. Then the real battle began. Young Chris coordinated communications between 17 different species, each with different languages, different tactical doctrines, different technologies, but all united by a single purpose: survival. This is what humanity brought us, he transmitted to his father. Not conquest, not domination. Unity. They showed us how to fight. Now they're showing us how to win. The battle raged for hours. The Devourers had numbers, but the coalition had something stronger. They had learned from humanity. They had adapted. They had weaponized everything. Most importantly, they had individuals fighting for principles, not drones following orders. When the Devourer fleet finally retreated, leaving nearly half their ships destroyed or captured, the galaxy received a new message, not from the Devourers, from Earth. This is President Laura of the Terran Defense Coalition. To every species watching, the Devourers marked Earth as a target. They sent 15,000 warships to destroy us. We drove them away. Today, they returned with 8,000 ships to prove they're still the dominant power. We proved them wrong. The age of Devourer supremacy is over. The age of cooperation has begun. Join us. Fight beside us. Together, we'll ensure no species ever lives in fear again. This is our promise. Earth will remember. Earth will stand. Earth will protect, because that's what Deathworld predators do when they choose to be guardians instead of conquerors. Across the galaxy, in homes and barracks, in government chambers and civilian shelters. Beings of every species heard the message. Many wept, some laughed, all felt something they hadn't experienced in generations. Hope. Young Chris looked at Lieutenant Rachel. What happens now? Rachel smiled. Now we keep fighting, keep freeing slaves, keep proving that unity is stronger than domination, keep showing the galaxy what humanity learned thousands of years ago. Together, we're unstoppable. The coalition fleet returned to Earth, not as conquerors, as heroes. David stood beside Laura, watching the ships arrive. You know, this changes everything. Earth isn't just another world anymore. We're the symbol of resistance. Good, Laura replied. Let them mark us as a target. Let them send their fleets. We'll keep doing what humans do best. Survive, adapt, protect. The Devourers thought Earth was their next target. They were right. We're their target, their last target, because we're coming for them. And we won't stop until every enslaved species is free. The message that had sent the galaxy in a panic 3 months ago now served a different purpose. A reminder, a warning, a promise. Earth had been marked. Now Earth was marking back.